you for joining us in Finding God in Video Games. Today's Rewind, we're going to take a look back at one of my personal favorite video games of all time. A true classic. You know, not every game can stand the test of time. Don't believe me? For every Super Mario Bros. Or Legend of Zelda that looks and feels just as solid as we remember it, there are those other poor monsters that simply were not meant to enter this millennium. Go ahead, dig out that old PlayStation 1 out of the garage. Give Bubsy 3D a try. But before you do, make sure you place a wastebasket next to you, one that you don't care for too much, because when you feel the motion sickness kick in, you're gonna need it. Many games over the years transported me to another place when I first played them. But after all these years, I go back and they're almost unrecognizable. But fortunately, the original Metal Gear Solid is everything I remember. The characters, the unique challenges they presented still feel fresh, even after all these years. But that keycard backtracking, though. Now, for those who have not indulged in that particular mission in Metal Gear Solid, let me give you a brief synopsis. In the midst of a world-saving mission to stop a nuclear warhead launch, we were tasked with inputting 3 card keys into 3 separate terminals. Sounds pretty easy, kind of normal video game 101. The problem is, we only had 1 key. So how can 1 key operate 3 separate terminals when each one required a unique input? And that's where the twist came in. That card key was actually all 3 keys the whole time. In order to activate those 3 separate terminals, the key had to change shape. The only way to do that was to brain the key to areas with dramatically different temperatures. The key first had to be entered into a terminal at room temperature, entered into another terminal after being exposed to high heat, and then finally inserted into the last terminal when being frozen in a below zero environment. Now, that did result in some less than enjoyable backtracking to a couple of areas in the game that presented the environments that were necessary to create the change in the key that would enable it to serve its purpose. But it was all part of the process that allowed this one key to serve each of those 3 unique purposes, while still being the same key the entire time. It is the abrupt and distinct changes in temperature and the pressure of the environment that takes the seemingly ordinary key and empowered it to do some pretty extraordinary things. You know, we all go through phases of life that are meant to mold and make us into the people we were meant to be. But these phases are rarely what we would choose or imagine. Now, in Jeremiah chapter 1, we find this bright-eyed young man receiving his first commission from the Lord. It says, "Then the word of the Lord came to me and said, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations." That sounds pretty inspiring. I mean, who wouldn't want to be told that they were chosen and formed from the point of conception for such an important mission? Then he went on and said that, "Do not be afraid of them. I'm here to deliver you." And he put forth his hand and touched my mouth and said, "Behold, I have put my words in your mouth." I mean, who wouldn't want to be given words to say for every situation we're going to face, fresh from the throne of God himself? I mean, that sounds pretty reassuring, right? That's pretty grand destiny ahead for young Jeremiah. Unfortunately, his path was not as smooth as his start would seem to imply. Jeremiah was given the challenging role of preaching to a people who would never listen to him, as you see later in Jeremiah 7, when the Lord says, "Therefore you will speak all these words to them, but they will not obey you. You will call to them, but they will not answer you." Jeremiah was given maybe one of the most unwanted and undesirable positions in the entire Old Testament, a front row seat to the fall of Jerusalem. But it would be from that pressure cooker that the man known as the Weeping Prophet would both preach and write the definitive tome on the fall, as well as prophesy the eventual rise of the nation of Israel once again. Much like those key cards in Metal Gear, it would be the rising temperature of the challenge he faced that would shape Jeremiah as he proceeded with the message that he was burdened to deliver. And his path absolutely took a heavy toll on him. In Jeremiah chapter 20, he says some pretty strong words. He said, "Cursed be the day I was born. Let not the day be blessed in which my mother bore me. Let the man be cursed who brought news to my father, saying, a male child has been born to you, making him very glad." I mean, when you're hating on your own birthday party, you know you're having a rough day. And in all seriousness, I've been there more times than I can count myself. But whether it was the high heat of enduring the pain of delivering an unpopular message to a hostile audience, or the ice-cold feeling of being all alone in his predicament, his key card was still exactly what it needed to be for the moment he was in at the time. Now, I don't know which season you're currently enduring. It could be the pressure and heat of the furnace or the frigid cold of loneliness and despair. But I do know that the word that the Lord gave each of us when everything was room temperature has not changed. And in order for us, the key, to be effective in each season of our lives, He may change the environment enough for us to be shaped into exactly what our current situation needs. Different times and different places will require different growth and changes from us. Just as Jeremiah found as his situation continually deteriorated. He was in and out of prison. He was forsaken by everyone at various points. His pulpits ranged from the king's palace to the stocks in the public square. And in the end, he delivered the message he was given, and he fulfilled his calling regardless of how his external situation. Now, Jeremiah might not sound like the most reassuring story, but it is a true real-world example of what being a follower of Christ actually looks like. And we can find encouragement in how he endured these seasons, even as his card key had to painfully adjust to an ever-changing set of external factors, bent on tearing him down. And in the end, these challenges were what shaped him into exactly what his situation called for. And it's the same way with each of us. Let's not resist the potter's touch as he shapes us into what our path calls for. He may reshape us several times as our journey continues, based on the unique needs of our current mission field. Let's just hold fast to the knowledge that he chose us for this, because for someone, we are the only key that will fit when the time is right. And it will be because of the heat or the cold that we've endured that we are now in the right place at exactly the right time.